The fire roared like a beast, swallowing the old community center in Maplewood, Ohio, as if it had a personal vendetta. I stood frozen across the street, my sketchbook slipping from my hands, watching flames lick the sky where my murals, years of my heart painted on those walls, turned to ash. Then I saw him, Caleb Jackson, charging into the inferno like he owned it, and my stomach twisted with a hatred I'd nursed for years. Caleb, 28, all muscle and bravado, was Maplewood's golden boy firefighter, the kind of guy who thrived on applause. I, Elliot Harper, 30, the town's quiet artist, had loathed him since high school, when his careless prank, dumping paint over my first public mural, humiliated me in front of everyone. He never apologized, and I never forgave. Now, watching him bark orders to his crew, his dark skin glistening with sweat under the fire's glow, I felt that old wound reopen. Why did he have to be here, saving the one place that mattered to me? The community center wasn't just a building. It was where I'd taught kids to paint, where I'd found my voice as a queer man in a town that didn't always understand. My murals, vibrant stories of love, identity, and resilience, were my legacy. And now they were gone. I sank to my knees on the sidewalk, the heat from across the street stinging my face. The crowd blurred around me, their gasps and shouts fading into a dull hum. All I could see was the fire, and all I could feel was loss. "Harper, get back!" Caleb's voice cut through the haze, sharp and commanding. Before I could snap at him, he was there, his gloved hand gripping my arm, pulling me away from the curb. I yanked free, my voice raw. "Don't touch me. You don't get to play hero with me." His brown eyes narrowed, but he didn't back off. "You're too close to the scene. Move or I'll drag you." I hated how steady he sounded, how he could stand there, all calm and in control, while my world burned. I stumbled back, glaring, but he was already turning away, shouting to his crew about a collapsed beam. I wanted to scream at him, to blame him for this somehow, but the truth was he was risking his life in there, and I hated him even more for it. The night dragged on, the fire finally subdued to smoldering ruins. The crowd dispersed, leaving me alone with the wreckage. I walked toward the charred skeleton of the center, my boots crunching on glass. The air smelled of smoke and failure. My murals were unrecognizable, reduced to blackened streaks. I dropped to my knees again, this time in the ash, and let out a sob I couldn't hold back. It wasn't just the art. It was the kids who'd painted with me, the stories we'd shared, the safe space we'd built, gone. I didn't hear Caleb approach until his shadow fell over me. "Elliot," he said, softer than I'd ever heard him. I didn't look up. "Go away," I choked out, but he didn't. He knelt beside me, his gear clinking, and for a moment we just sat there, the silence heavy with smoke. Then, to my shock, his arms slid around my shoulders. I froze, my body screaming to pull away, but I couldn't. The weight of his arm, steady and warm, anchored me as I broke down completely, sobs tearing through me. And Caleb, damn him, didn't let go. I don't know how long we stayed like that, me crying into the soot-stained fabric of his jacket, him holding me like I wasn't the guy who'd spent years hating him. "I'm sorry," he whispered finally, his voice rough. "I know what this place meant to you." I wanted to shove him, to tell him he didn't know anything, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I clung to him, my fingers digging into his arm, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. The next morning, Maplewood buzzed with talk of the fire. I avoided the diner, the grocery store, anywhere people might ask me how I was doing. I holed up in my small apartment above the hardware store, staring at a blank canvas, my hands shaking too much to paint. My phone pinged with messages from friends, but I ignored them. Then, a knock at the door. I opened it to find Caleb out of his gear, in a plain black t-shirt that hugged his frame. He held a cardboard box, his expression unreadable. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice flat. He didn't flinch at my tone. "Found something in the rubble. Thought you'd want it." He opened the box, revealing a scorched but intact sketchbook, one I'd left at the center months ago. Inside were rough drafts of my murals, the ones I thought I'd lost forever. My throat tightened. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, suspicious. Caleb shifted, looking almost uncomfortable. "Because I owe you, and because I get it. Losing something you poured your heart into." His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw something real there. Not the cocky firefighter, but a man who understood pain. I didn't know what to say, so I just took the sketchbook, my fingers brushing his. The contact sent a jolt through me, and I hated how it lingered. Over the next week, Caleb kept showing up. First, it was to drop off a flyer for a town meeting about rebuilding the center. Then he brought coffee, claiming he was just passing by. Each time, I wanted to shut the door in his face, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the way he didn't push, didn't try to charm his way in like he did with everyone else. Or maybe it was the memory of his arm around me, steady when I was falling apart. One evening, he showed up with a bag of burgers from Rosie's Diner. "You look like you haven't eaten in days," he said, stepping inside before I could protest. We sat on my worn-out couch, eating in silence at first. Then he spoke. "I never meant to hurt you back in high school. That prank, I was a dumb kid trying to impress my friends. I didn't know what that mural meant to you." I stared at him, burger forgotten. "You humiliated me, Caleb, in front of the whole town." My voice shook, but I kept going. "You made me feel like my art, myself, was a joke." He looked down, his jaw tight. "I know, and I've carried that guilt ever since." His honesty disarmed me. I wanted to stay angry, but the sincerity in his eyes chipped away at my walls. We talked for hours that night about high school, about the fire, about the parts of ourselves we hid from the world. I told him about coming out in a town that wasn't always kind, about how the community center had been my refuge. He listened, really listened, and I saw a side of Caleb I'd never imagined. A man who'd fought his own battles, who'd hidden his own truths. By the time he left, the air between us had shifted. I didn't hate him anymore, but what I felt instead scared me even more. Maplewood's autumn was relentless. The air crisp and the leaves a riot of red and gold, but I couldn't shake the grayness inside me. The community center's ruins were cordoned off, a constant reminder of what I'd lost, and every day felt like wading through mud. Caleb, though, was a persistent spark in the gloom, showing up with coffee or a quiet question about my art, like he was trying to piece me back together. I didn't trust it at first. Why would Caleb Jackson, the guy who'd once laughed while I scrubbed paint off my clothes, care about me now? But he kept coming, each visit chipping away at my defenses. One afternoon, he found me at the park, sketching the old oak tree that had survived the fire. I was 30, but sitting there with my pencils, I felt like a kid again, raw and exposed. Caleb sat beside me, his firefighter boots scuffing the dirt. "You're good, Elliot," he said, peering at my sketch. "Always were." I snorted, but my cheeks warmed. "Don't flatter me. I'm not one of your adoring fans." He laughed, a low, warm sound that made my stomach flip. "Good," he said. "I don't want you to be." His eyes lingered on mine, and I looked away, heart pounding. What was this? I'd spent years hating him, and now his presence felt like a lifeline. The town meeting about rebuilding the center was packed, the high school gym buzzing with voices. I stood in the back, arms crossed, listening as the mayor droned on about budgets. Caleb was there in his firefighter jacket, speaking up about safety upgrades. His voice carried a quiet authority, and I hated how it drew me in. When he mentioned the murals, saying they were the heart of the center, my breath caught. He looked right at me as he said it, and I felt seen in a way I hadn't in years. After the meeting, we ended up walking through the park, the moon casting long shadows. "Why do you care so much?" I asked, stopping by the bench where we'd sat the night of the fire. "Why do you keep showing up?" Caleb rubbed the back of his neck, his usual confidence faltering. "Because I see you, Elliot. Not just the artist, but you. And I know what it's like to feel like you don't fit." His voice dropped, and he looked away. "I'm not out. Not here. Not yet." The words hit me like a punch. Caleb, the town's hero, was queer? I stared at him, my mind racing. "You're serious?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, his eyes vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. "I've been hiding it my whole life. Firehouse isn't exactly the most welcoming place for that." I didn't know what to say. All this time, I'd painted him as the enemy, but he'd been carrying his own weight, his own secrets. I reached out, my hand brushing his, and he didn't pull away. We stood there, fingers entwined, the night wrapping around us like a promise. It was the first time I let myself feel something other than anger for him, and it terrified me. The next few weeks were a blur of tentative steps. Caleb started texting me, little things like a photo of a sunset or a dumb joke about fire hoses. I found myself smiling at my phone, then cursing myself for it. But I couldn't stop. We'd meet at the park or my apartment, talking about everything. Our fears, our dreams, the parts of ourselves we'd buried. He told me about growing up with a dad who expected him to be tough, about the pressure to be Maplewood's perfect hero. I told him about the taunts I'd faced after coming out, about how painting had saved me. One night, we ended up at Rosie's Diner, tucked into a corner booth. The neon lights buzzed above us, and the jukebox played some old Springsteen song. Caleb leaned across the table, his voice low. "I want to be honest with you, Elliot. I've liked you for a long time. Even back in high school, I was too scared to say it." My heart stopped. "You liked me? You ruined my mural." I said, but there was no venom in it. He winced, then reached for my hand. "I was an idiot. I thought if I got your attention, even if it was bad, it was something. I'm sorry." I pulled my hand back, but not because I was angry. I was overwhelmed. All these years, I'd built a wall around that hurt, and now Caleb was tearing it down brick by brick. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted, my voice shaking. "I don't know how to trust you." He nodded, his eyes steady. "Then let me earn it." And damn it, I wanted him to. The rebuilding plans for the center moved forward, and I was asked to design new murals. It felt like a second chance, but the weight of starting over was crushing. Caleb offered to help, showing up with paint cans and a grin that made my chest ache. We worked late into the night, sketching outlines on the new walls, our shoulders brushing as we moved. Every touch felt electric, every glance heavy with something unspoken. One evening, as we cleaned brushes under a flickering street lamp, Caleb turned to me, his face serious. "Elliot, I want to be someone you can count on. Not just for this, but for you." He stepped closer and I didn't back away. His hand cupped my cheek, and before I could overthink it, I leaned in. Our lips met, soft at first, then urgent, like we'd both been holding our breath for years. The kiss was fire and ash, pain and healing, and I didn't want it to end. When we pulled apart, I was trembling, but not from fear. "Caleb," I whispered, "what are we doing?" He smiled, his thumb brushing my jaw. "Figuring it out. Together." The kiss changed everything. It was like a match struck in the dark, illuminating corners of myself I'd kept hidden. But with that light came fear. Fear of what this meant. Fear of Maplewood's small-town eyes. Fear of trusting Caleb with my heart. We didn't talk about the kiss the next day, but it hung between us, heavy and unspoken. Caleb kept showing up, though, helping with the murals, bringing me coffee, stealing glances that made my pulse race. I caught myself watching him, too. The way his hands moved when he painted, steady and sure, or the way his laugh softened the edges of my anxiety. I was falling for him, and it scared me to death. The community center's reconstruction was picking up speed, and so was the town's gossip. Maplewood wasn't cruel, but it was nosy, and two guys spending late nights together didn't go unnoticed. At the hardware store, Mrs. Callahan raised an eyebrow when I bought paint with Caleb. At Rosie's, our server lingered a little too long, watching us share fries. I told myself I didn't care, but I did. I'd fought hard to be out, to be proud, but opening my heart to Caleb felt like stepping onto a tightrope. One afternoon, we were painting a mural of a phoenix rising from flames, a nod to the center's rebirth. Caleb was on a ladder, outlining feathers, when he glanced down at me. "You ever think about leaving Maplewood?" he asked, his tone casual but his eyes serious. I paused, my brush dripping red. "Sometimes, but this place, it's home. It's where I found myself." I looked up at him. "What about you?" He climbed down, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Used to dream about it. Big city, no one knowing my name. But now," he stepped closer, his voice low. "Now I think I'd miss this. Miss you." My breath hitched. "Caleb, we need to talk about this. About us." I gestured between us, my heart pounding. "I don't know how to do this in a place like this." He nodded, his expression soft but resolute. "I know, and I'm not asking you to hide. I need time to figure out how to be me, out here." He reached for my hand, and I let him take it. "But I want this, Elliot. I want you." I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. Could I trust someone who'd hurt me before? Could I trust myself to let him in? Before I could answer, a shout interrupted us. "Jackson, you up for poker tonight?" It was Mike, one of Caleb's firefighter buddies, leaning against the doorframe, smirking. Caleb dropped my hand, stepping back. "Yeah, maybe," he called, his voice tight. Mike's eyes flicked to me, and I saw the question there, the judgment. My stomach sank. Caleb didn't look at me as he walked over to talk to Mike, and I felt a crack in the fragile thing we'd been building. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, sketching Caleb's face from memory. His strong jaw, his warm eyes, the vulnerability he showed only to me. But Mike's smirk kept creeping into my thoughts. Was Caleb ashamed of me? Of us? I threw my pencil down, frustrated. I'd spent years fighting to be seen, to be proud. I couldn't go back to hiding, not even for him. The next day, Caleb showed up at my apartment, his face tense. "Mike knows," he said without preamble. "He saw us yesterday, put two and two together. He's not thrilled." I crossed my arms, my heart sinking. "And what did you say?" Caleb ran a hand over his head, pacing. "I told him it's none of his business. But he's talking, Elliot. The whole firehouse might know by now." Anger flared in my chest. "So what? You're gonna let them dictate your life? Hide who you are because some guys can't handle it?" "It's not that simple," he snapped, his voice rising. "You don't get it. The firehouse is my family. If I lose them, I lose everything." I stepped closer, my voice shaking. "And what about me? Am I just something you can lose, too?" His face crumpled, and he reached for me, but I stepped back. "Elliot, no, you're not. I need time." "Time," I repeated, bitter. "I've spent my whole life waiting for people to accept me. I'm done waiting, Caleb." I turned away, my chest tight. "Maybe you should figure out what you want before you come back." He left without a word, and the silence that followed was deafening. For the next few days, I threw myself into the murals, painting with a fury that left my hands aching. The phoenix took shape, its flames vivid and defiant. But every stroke felt like a reminder of Caleb. I missed him, his laugh, his warmth, the way he made me feel safe. But I couldn't be his secret. Then, one night, the fire alarm blared through Maplewood. I ran outside, joining the crowd as flames lit up the sky. This time, it was the old mill on the edge of town. My heart pounded as I saw Caleb's truck speed by, sirens screaming. I told myself I didn't care, but I couldn't stay away. I ran to the scene, my breath catching as I saw Caleb disappear into the burning building. The crowd murmured, fear thick in the air. Minutes stretched like hours, and then I saw him, stumbling out, carrying an unconscious worker, his face streaked with soot. He collapsed to his knees, coughing, as paramedics rushed over. Without thinking, I pushed through the crowd, dropping beside him. "Caleb," I said, my voice breaking. "Are you okay?" He looked up, his eyes meeting mine, and for a moment the world fell away. "I'm okay," he rasped, then reached for my hand. Right there in front of everyone. "I'm done hiding, Elliot. I choose you." Caleb's hand in mine, in front of the whole town, felt like a declaration. The mill fire crackled behind us, but all I could see was him. His eyes fierce with resolve, his grip steady despite the chaos. For the first time, I believed he meant it, and the weight of that trust was both exhilarating and terrifying. The next morning, Maplewood was abuzz with more than just the mill fire. Word spread fast. Caleb Jackson, the town's hero, had held hands with Elliot Harper in public. I braced for backlash, but the reaction was mixed. At Rosie's, some regulars gave me tight smiles. Others avoided my gaze. Caleb, though, walked taller like a weight had lifted. He showed up at my apartment that evening, his firefighter jacket slung over his shoulder, a nervous grin on his face. "I told the crew," he said, stepping inside. "About us. About me." I froze, my paintbrush hovering over a canvas. "And?" He shrugged, but his eyes were bright. "Some are cool, some not so much. Mike's pissed, says I'm throwing it in their faces. But I don't care. I'm done pretending." I set the brush down, my heart racing. "Caleb, this is big. Are you sure?" He crossed the room, stopping inches from me. "I've never been surer. You're worth it, Elliot." He kissed me then, slow and deliberate, and I melted into it, my fears dissolving in the warmth of his touch. We fell into a rhythm after that, navigating our new reality together. Caleb started joining me at the community center every evening, helping with the murals, joking with the kids who'd come to watch. His presence drew curious looks, but he didn't flinch. He'd laugh, sling an arm around me, and keep painting, his confidence infectious. The Phoenix mural was nearly done, its wings spread wide, a symbol of everything we were building, together. But not everyone was on board. One night, as we locked up the center, a group of guys from the firehouse cornered us in the parking lot. Mike led the pack, his face hard. "You think you can just waltz around like this, Jackson?" He spat. "You're making us all look bad." Caleb stepped in front of me, his voice calm but firm. "I'm not hiding who I am, Mike. If that's a problem, that's on you." Mike's eyes flicked to me, venomous. "And you, Harper, always stirring up trouble with your art and your lifestyle." I clenched my fists, ready to snap back, but Caleb squeezed my shoulder. "Walk away, Mike," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Mike muttered something under his breath but backed off, his friends following. I exhaled, my hands shaking, but Caleb pulled me close. "They'll get over it," he murmured. "Or they won't. Either way, I'm here." That confrontation lingered, though. I started noticing whispers at the grocery store, sidelong glances at the diner. Maplewood was changing, but not fast enough for some. I threw myself into the murals, painting late into the night, trying to drown out the noise. Caleb stayed with me, his presence a quiet strength. One evening, as we finished a section of the Phoenix's Flames, he turned to me, his face serious. "Elliot, I want to do more than just be out. I want to help make this place better. For us, for the kids who come after us." He gestured to the mural. "This is a start, but what if we made the center a real safe space? Somewhere people like us don't have to hide." I stared at him, my heart swelling. "You mean like a queer community hub?" He nodded, his eyes alight. "Exactly. Workshops, art classes, support groups. Whatever it takes." The idea took root, and we spent hours planning, sketching out programs, dreaming up ways to make the center a beacon for anyone who felt like they didn't belong. It felt like a purpose bigger than us, a way to turn our pain into something lasting. But the closer we got to the center's reopening, the more tension simmered in town. Flyers for the new programs were torn down. Someone spray-painted a slur on the center's door. Each incident hit like a blow, but Caleb and I faced them together, cleaning up, moving forward. The night before the reopening, we sat on the park bench, the same one from the night of the fire. The Phoenix mural was complete, its colors glowing under the streetlights. Caleb took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. "I'm scared," he admitted, his voice low. "Not of them, but of letting you down." I squeezed his hand, my chest tight. "You won't. We're in this together, remember?" He smiled, pulling me close, and we kissed under the stars, the world quiet for once. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but with Caleb beside me, I felt ready to face it. The community center's reopening was a kaleidoscope of noise and color, the parking lot packed with balloons, food trucks, and kids running wild. The Phoenix mural gleamed on the new wall, its flames a testament to survival. But beneath the celebration, tension hummed. Maplewood wasn't unanimous in its support, and I felt it in every glance, every whispered comment. Caleb stood beside me, his firefighter jacket swapped for a plain blue shirt, his hand brushing mine as we greeted visitors. He'd been out for weeks now, and while some in town had embraced him, others hadn't. I saw it in the way Mike and his crew lingered at the edge of the crowd, their arms crossed, their eyes cold. I squeezed Caleb's hand, drawing strength from his warmth. The mayor cut the ribbon, and the crowd cheered as the doors opened. Inside, the new Safe Space program was unveiled, art workshops, counseling, a place for queer kids to feel seen. I gave a short speech, my voice shaking as I talked about the murals, about rebuilding not just walls but community. Caleb stood in the front row, his smile anchoring me. When I finished, he clapped louder than anyone, and my heart swelled. But the joy didn't last. Halfway through the event, a shout broke through the music. "This is a disgrace." It was Mike, pushing through the crowd, his face red. "You're turning this place into a freak show, Jackson." Caleb stepped forward, his voice steady. "It's a place for everyone, Mike. You don't get to decide who belongs." Mike laughed, bitter. "You're throwing away everything for him?" He jabbed a finger at me, and the crowd went silent. I felt eyes on me, judging, weighing. My old insecurities flared, but before I could speak, Caleb grabbed my hand, holding it high. "Yeah, for him," Caleb said, his voice ringing, "and for every kid who's ever felt like they don't belong. If you can't handle that, there's the door." The silence stretched, taut as a wire. Then, to my shock, a few people clapped. Then more. Mrs. Callahan from the hardware store stepped forward, her voice firm. "He's right. This town's better than this." Others nodded, and Mike's crew slunk away, their bravado deflated. The rest of the day was a blur of laughter, music, and hope. Kids painted mini-murals, their hands smudged with color, their smiles bright. Caleb and I worked side by side, teaching, laughing, stealing glances that felt like promises. By evening, the crowd had thinned, and we stood alone in front of the phoenix, its wings catching the sunset's glow. "We did it," I said, my voice thick. "This place, it's more than I ever dreamed." Caleb pulled me close, his arms strong around me. "We're just getting started," he murmured. "You and me, we're gonna make this town a home for everyone." I leaned into him, my heart full. The fire that had destroyed the center had also sparked something new. A love I never expected. A purpose I hadn't known I needed. Caleb had gone from the man I hated to the one I couldn't imagine life without. As we stood there, wrapped in each other, I knew we'd face more fights, more whispers, but together we were unstoppable. Years later, the community center thrived, a beacon for Maplewood's misfits. Caleb and I built a life together, messy, imperfect, but ours. The Phoenix mural watched over it all, a reminder that from ashes, something beautiful could rise. And every time I looked at Caleb, his hand in mine, I knew we'd already found it.